Hello, I'm going to be making a video that will allow you to hopefully better understand how your child is currently getting taught how to add two-digit numbers and ways that you can help them. So let's get started. So on the screen here I have 23 plus 45. Now naturally, if you got taught how I did, we would just look at the ones here, add them straight up and down, and same thing with the tens over here. So no harm in that. It works. We get the right answer, and there we go. Then we come to problems like this. 23 plus 48. Okay, so again, doing how we were taught, 8 plus 3 is 11, so I put a 1 down here, carry the 1, and then I add all of these numbers up, and there we go. Now, the problem with this is that students now would be asked, well, why did you carry a 1? What is that 1? Are you really adding 1 plus 2 plus 4? Why does that work? Now, if you're like me, when I first got posed with this, I wasn't sure. Now, some people understand exactly what was going on, but for me growing up, I just knew that this is how you did it, this is what works, this is the process. So we're trying to get away from teaching the kiddos processes. Eventually, when they understand this algorithm, that is fine. But if we teach this to students, first, their deeper thinking and understanding why this works goes out the window. So even back to this model, 23 plus 45, we want to get students to eventually be able to do things like this in their head and not have to see it vertically on paper and writing it down. And then same thing for this problem as well. So I'm going to start out with why it's so important for your student to understand ways to make 10, and then we will work up to teaching your child or helping them understand strategies and ways to add these two-digit numbers together. So ways to make 10. Why are they so important? So having your child understand all the buddies of 10 or ways to make 10. We start out in first grade with a model of a 5 frame. Like this. And students picture and are shown all these ways to make 5. 3 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 4, 4 and 1, 5 and 0, like this. So looking at the empty spaces and the filled in spaces. And then that eventually gets extended in first grade as well, and it is reviewed in second grade to a 10 frame. And same concept. So looking at the spaces that are filled in versus the spaces that are empty, understanding that 4 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 10, and then the other way around, 6 plus 4, and all of those ways to make 10. So really making sure that your child knows and understands all of these pairs, and that whenever we add 1 to the top, it takes away from the areas that were missing from the bottom. So that my 4 and 6 became a 5 and 5, and now my 5 and 5 become a 6 and 4, 6 plus 4, and so on and so forth. So just having your child really know all of these by heart. And understanding that it doesn't matter the order, that, if you have a 6 and a 4, you could also have a 4 and a 6. So then, knowing this concept and understanding this will help them with double digits, because then in second grade, students also need to understand and connect ways to make 20. Ways to make 20. So zoom out here. So students should connect that ways to make 20 are directly related to ways to make 10. So, for example, if I have 1 plus what equals 20, they should understand that 20 is really just 2 sets of 10. So if they know their ways to make 10, then they know that this has to be 19, because over here, when we had 1 plus 9, all we had to do is give the 9 a group of 10 by putting 1 10 in the 10's place. And then that can go all the way down the line as well. 2 plus 18 equals 20. And then the reverse, 8 plus 12. Because again, they should be understanding, well, if I know that 8 plus 2 is 10, then I know 8 plus 12 is 20, since 20 is just another 10 added on to my first 10, and that 10 shows up right here in this 12. So that is why it is so important for your child to go home and really know these ways to make 10, and how it will help them with double-digit numbers later. So then we, like I said, added on by doing ways to make 20. And then as the numbers get even larger, they should be able to be connecting. For example, if I have 32 plus 48, so they should be able to mentally solve this and think about this by saying, well, I know that 8 and 2 make 10, and then I have to just simply add 4 10s plus 3 10s plus 1 more 10 with my 2 and 8, and that is 8 10s, so it is 80. In this way, they're getting away from having to sit down and write it out vertically and just line it up, etc. They're actually thinking about the number relationships instead of a process. So using ways to make 10, or recognizing that you can make a 10, is a strategy. When it comes to solving or adding double-digit numbers or two-digit numbers. So recognizing ways to make 10. And again, that number relationship concept is what we really want them to be thinking about, instead of having to sit down and write it out and line them up. That same concept is true for this problem up here. So I'm going to rewrite it out horizontally, 23 plus 48. So in this problem, students can still recognize a 10, how to make a 10 in this problem. So again, adding the ones up, they should notice, well, since I know that 8 plus 2 is 10, 3 is just 2 and 1, so 8 plus 2 is 10, and then plus 10 plus 1 more equals 11. So I'm writing this out to show you, but again, students should be and will eventually be able to understand this and do this in their head. They can show their work in this way if they want to. Again, just so we can see their thinking when they do show their work, instead of just writing an answer. This would be perfect because I can see, okay, they made a 10 here. That is a strategy that they used. And then understanding that that 10 has to then get added to these other 10s over here, so that then the students can then write 20 plus 40 equals 60. But then oftentimes students will forget about this 10 at first. So that will show me that they might have a little trouble understanding some place value there, or that they're just going too fast sometimes and forgetting to add that back in. So then we talk about, so now I have 60 plus 10 plus 1. And then they can get to 71. And there are many other ways that students can actually show the path of their work for this. This is just one example for them to show me their strategies. And we are trying to get away from drawing pictures, but if that is where students are and that's what they need to do, that is fine. But we're trying to get them to transfer the idea of pictures. So you might have seen, in first grade, students drawing pictures of 10 sticks and ones. But again, as these numbers get larger, we really want them to apply this imagery idea to the actual number concept. So if this is what your child is needing to do for now, that is fine, if that's what helps them, but we will eventually be working away from that, because I wouldn't necessarily be wanting them to draw 10 sticks and ones for this problem, but if that's how they need to see making a group of 10, then that's fine. For right now, it really is. So please don't discourage your child from drawing pictures, because if that's how they need to visually see it, they will eventually transfer that concept. So, but that would also tell me that they're not recognizing on their own, oh, I know 8 and 2 is 10. So if students are not able to do that and just come up with that on their own, that they have to still count these out, one by one, then they need to be going back to practicing their ways to make 10 and memorizing those and remembering those, so that this still would be a quick concept. So they would say, oh, look, 8 and 2 is 10. So then that will turn into a 10 stick and come over here. Now I can add my 30 and my 40, and then not forgetting that I have one more left over. So this is definitely a way to show their work. This is perfectly fine. I would love this. It's showing that they understand the place value and that they can make a 10 at the ones, and that those 10 ones need to, in fact, go next door to the 10's place to then create our 10 stick and to then get 71. So I hope this helped you understand ways you can help your child add 2-digit numbers. We want to stay away from telling them this carry idea, okay, right now, saying carry to your student, because until they develop the understanding of the 10's place and the ones, and the fact that this is not a 1, that it is a 10, and that these are 2 10s, and that this is 4 10s, we don't want to just teach them this algorithm. They need to be able to explain, what is actually happening when we're adding, again, back to this number relationship thing, why this is working and what's going on, and this is a much better representation of understanding of what's going on. And so I think, too, just for now, having them write the problems horizontally, like right here, so that they are not getting in the habit of needing to line up the 1s and the 10s. They should just always know that the 1s are the number to the very right, and that the 10s are before that, and then eventually the hundreds place and thousands and so on. So please let me know if you have any questions, and this is for yours to keep and look over and play as much as you need to. Thank you so much.